Hi there, this is Soldier from Soldier Films, and welcome to another episode of In the Frame. Today's episode of In the Frame is about the adventures of Carol Kolchak, i.e. Night Stalker. Now I did a double take video last year probably about the Night Stalker, which was the 1972 TV movie. Starring Darren McGavin as Kolchak, who's investigating murders in Las Vegas, which look as though they're done by a vampire, written by Richard Matheson, and then they followed that up in 1973 with The Night Strangler, which was set in Seattle, again written by Richard Matheson. Kolchak getting in people's way as he investigates crimes that seem to be happening every 21 years, and a whole elixir of life subplot, which are tremendous films. But Kino Lorber, who released the two TV movies, recently released the actual series, which I had to get. I had this on DVD for years. I think I saw it originally. So the show was 1974 to 1975. They only did 20 episodes before it was cancelled for various reasons. I think I originally saw it in the late 80s, early 90s in the UK on late night television. It's a kind of antecedent of the X-Files, as you have this reporter Kolchak investigating all these spooky goings on. Every week they used the same kind of template. You could argue it became formulaic, but most TV shows do. But there's a lot of fun to be had. Kino Lorber, who are kind of known for being hit and miss with extras, but their Kolchak materials are absolutely stacked. So there's 20 episodes and this has 21 commentaries, featuring people like Kim Newman and Barry Forshaw and Tim Lucas, and various other people. So there's 21 commentaries on the 20 episodes. There's an interview with David Chase, who would go on to work on Northern Exposure and create The Sopranos, who co-wrote 8 Night Stalker episodes. There's an interview with Dana Gould, the creator of Stand Against Evil. And you also get a booklet. So it's 20 episodes on 4 discs. So it's quite good. It's not as if they're all compressed on like 1 disc or 2 discs. And like I said, you get a booklet as well. So if you're a fan of Kolchak, the Kino Lorber releases are absolutely top notch. So you have an essay, and you also get a brief synopsis of each episode, which I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to give spoilers away, but obviously some of the titles give the spoilers away for you. The commentaries are really interesting because it goes into the pros and the cons of the show. But for me, some of the cons that people talk about in the commentaries are actually some of my pros. So for example, unlike the TV movies where Kolchak had girlfriends, there's no family life for Kolchak. He is a loner, he's crotchety, he's only interested in his work. He's only interested in the story, and to me that's actually a good thing, because he is pretty much a sociopath himself. He treats pretty much everybody with disdain, his co-workers, the lieutenant of the week who's investigating the police, who he gets under the skin of, various guest stars and famous faces that you'll probably recognise if you've watched episodes of Columbo, for example. So that's what I like about it. You can start with the music is very nice. The opening sequence is very nice, because it starts kind of being almost upbeat, and then there's a nice light change, and it gets slightly creepier music, and clock stop, and then Kolchak wheels round as it freeze frames. Because of, as a TV show, that's 1974, 75, so the violence is kind of toned down. There's lots of kind of freeze frames at the point of dying in quite a lot of the episodes. The show was kind of rebooted in 2005, starring Stuart Townsend, but again they gave him a backstory. His wife was murdered under strange circumstances, and that's why he ends up investigating strange murders. He kind of had a sidekick, which Kolchak occasionally gets involved with another reporter on the story or whatever, but in general he has a lone wolf, and that's what I always kind of liked about the show. So apologies for having to look at my notes. So show 1 is The Ripper, so no surprise what that story is about. Obviously the show also stars Simon Oakland as Tony Vincenzo, his beleaguered boss. And again, it always starts with Kolchak talking to us, saying, "Oh, you'll never believe what I'm going to tell you." And then at the end, he's always got a cautionary tale. So if you're walking down the streets alone and you hear noise, it might not be what you think. Number 2 is The Zombie. Yep, they're literally kind of going for obvious titles. This is about voodoo, obviously, and somebody taking vengeance on the people responsible for his deaths. And it's a nice gangland war between the Afro-Caribbean people in Chicago and the mafia in Chicago, and it guest stars Scatman Crothers and Antonio Fargas. But again, there's lots of humour in Kolchak, but there's also, this one's one of the creepier episodes, as Kolchak, who isn't this, monster hunter who's fearless. He gets as scared as we would, and again, that's one of the reasons why, despite being irascible and despite being irritating at times, we still love him, because he reacts the way we react. First disbelief, but then obviously every week he's trying to convince people that there's something supernatural going on. So The Zombie is a wonderful one, full of grave digging and strange rites. And then we have They Have Been, They Are, They Will Be, which is the one episode where there's a distinct influence on the X-Files, because it's about people and animals disappearing and their bone marrows being removed, and it's basically aliens who have kind of run out of fuel, essentially, and are fueling up on bone marrow. We're introduced to Gordy the Ghoul, who works in the mortuary, and Carl Kolchak, by giving him donations, gets information, and he's played by one of the 12 Angry Men, probably the least angry of the 12 Angry Men. And then episode 4 is The Vampire, which is kind of a spin-off from The Night Stalker, which is wonderful. In that one, he teams up with a female estate agent. Number 5 is The Werewolf, which strangely enough is about a werewolf on a cruise ship, which is unusual. I haven't seen that one before. And again, he teams up with a female passenger. Next we have Firefall, which is a really interesting episode about people suffering spontaneous combustion, but it might involve the death of a cheap hoodlum and arsonist, and there is doppelgangers appearing, and that has a couple of creepy little scenes to it. And then we have The Devil's Platform, which I think was probably influenced by The Omen, which stars Tom Skerritt, a young Tom Skerritt, as a Senate candidate who seems to have come out of nowhere, and whose opponents and people who speak against them seem to meet with horrible fates, including dog attacks and a lift crashing. That's a wonderful episode, as he kind of tempts Carol. He can give him a better career and give him better prospects. The next one we have is called Bad Medicine, which guest stars Richard Kiel of Jaws fame from Bond as a Native American who can shapeshift and is doing jewellery heists for reasons that are uncovered during the episode. We have The Spanish Moss Murders, which stars Keenan Wynn as the lieutenant who shouts at Kolchak quite a lot, and he will come back in later episodes reprising that role. And that involves something strange down in the sewers, and there's an appearance by the actress who would become the witch from The Howling in 1983. Then we have Energy Eater, which takes place in a new hospital which seems to be buried under an area which there's a creature that feeds off energy in the summer. Don't ask me. Then we have Horror in the Heights, one of the most famous episodes, which was written by Hammer regular Jimmy Sangster, co-starring Phil Silver, and it takes place in the Jewish neighbourhood of Chicago, and old people are being killed, and there is what seems to be swastikas everywhere, but it's actually a Hindu Indian restaurant owner who is tasked for the last 60 years with hunting this creature that takes on the shape of somebody you know, your friend, and then takes all your flesh off. So that's a wonderful episode. Then we have Mr. Ring, which is one about a killer robot, which is interesting because the research is being undertaken at the Tyrrell Institute, which is kind of fascinating in a Blade Runner way, because in Philip K. Dick's book, it's actually the Rosen Association, I believe, not the Tyrrell Institute, which was later in the film. So I don't know whether this episode was an influence on the Blade Runner script that became the Tyrrell Corporation. And then we have Primal Scream, which is about Missing Link. So there's lots of chance for a man to run around in a monkey suit, and that guest stars Jamie Farr, Klinger from MASH fame. Then we have the Trevi collection, which is set in the fashion world and also the world of witchcraft, and it uses the trope that's been copied so many times of, at one point, mannequins coming to life and mannequins moving, which is wonderfully creepy. Then we have episode 15, which is Chopper, which is the age-old story of Sleepy Hollow, not Sleepy Holly, Sleepy Hollow reimagined as a headless biker who is offing people who were involved with his death 20 years ago, which is a wonderful little episode. Co-stars Jim Backus, who of course was James Dean's dad in Rebel Without a Cause, and also one of the regulars of the Police Academy series. I won't say which one to spoil it, you'll have to find out. Then we have Demon and Lace. Again, Keenan Wynn comes back for that one. And again, this one is about a tablet brought back from Iraq, the Sumerian writings, which is very Evil Dead. And there's a succubus, which is very Evil Dead as well. Again, I don't know whether Sam Raimi saw this at some point. And that's another wonderful little episode. Then we have Legacy of Terror, which is about Aztec heart ripping out murders. Again, this is another one that takes every so many years, 5 victims. The 5th one is willing, is treated like a king, and then sacrificed, and this means this mummy is going to come back in the year 2000 and reign terror and end the world. And we'll have to wait to the year 2000 to find out whether that happened or not. And this guest stars Eric Estrada. I think this was before Chips, I believe. It's another wonderful episode. Then we have Nightly Murders, which strangely enough is about a phantom knight running about and killing people. Yep. Generally the titles of the episodes give away what the theme of the episode is. And this actually guest stars Dr. T from the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. He does not play a piano though. But he is in it. And then we have The Youth Killer, which is essentially Helen of Troy killing young people, turning them young to old, sucking the life out of them so she can look gorgeous. So there's lots of people through the gift of makeup and bending down and standing back up again, getting older and older, then dying. Again, it's a wonderful episode. And then we have finally The Sentry, which is set in this underground storage facility where government things are going on, amongst other things, and people are dying. It guest stars the father from Happy Days. And there may be large reptiles running about killing people. And that's the 20 episodes. That sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Now, granted, the special effects are somewhat limited for the day, but that just gives it the charm. And again, Kolchak is a character, he is crotchety, he is driven, but he's still likeable, well, for me anyway, because I've always been a big fan of it. I would say again, Kino Lorber have done a great job on the series. It's never looked better. It looks really good. And again, they've absolutely packed it with extras. I should say all 3 of these releases are Region A discs. So you need the equipment to be able to play Region A discs. Again, they rebooted it in 2005. I think there was 10 episodes. They only aired 6. And it only had a semblance of anything to do with the Night Stalker series of the 74-75. At one point, Edgar Wright was going to do something with Johnny Depp as Kolchak, but that fell through as well. Kim Newman actually says in one of the commentaries that he loaned Edgar Wright the script of the original Night Stalker and the series, but he doesn't think he's actually given them back to him yet. So if you're listening, Edgar, please give Kim Newman his Night Stalker stuff back. It's just a wonderful show. Again, only 20 episodes. It was kind of cancelled because Darren McGavin didn't want to get trapped in it. He kind of wanted to go and do other things. At one point he was kind of co-producing it. He kind of felt it was running out of ideas because, again, it was formulaic every week. It was a different kind of guest lieutenant that you would argue with, and again, there was no subplots, which I kind of like. Obviously nowadays shows have to have 28 different subplots going on. Night Stalker didn't. It was very one note. He's after something spooky. People don't believe him. He tries to get the authorities to believe him. He ends up fighting the creature or whatever, and then through one way or another his evidence either gets destroyed or is taken off him. So we just have to believe what he tells us, sometimes directly into the camera at the end of each episode. But it's so much fun. The commentaries are really interesting. The background of the show, why it worked, why it failed, and what it inspired, which is quite a few things. Most notably, the X-Files. So I would highly recommend picking up if you can. Obviously, if you're a fan, you probably have already. So you have the series, and of course you have the two films, The Night Strangler and The Night Stalker. And that is the story of Carol Kolchak. So thanks very much for watching. Please leave your comments below what your favourite episode of The Night Stalker was, and hopefully join me again for more episodes of In the Frame. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.